Welcome to the Refine and Shine, the podcast dedicated to mastering the art of continuous improvement and optimizing every aspect of your life. I'm Angelina Rivera, your host, and together we'll uncover the secrets to refining our lives, our habits, and our processes to unlock our inner brilliance. Join us on Refine and Shine, where we'll delve deep into achieving more in life without the burnout and without all the stress. This podcast is your platform for a more fulfilling life through continuous improvement and personal growth. In each episode, I and a diverse array of guests discuss practical strategies for up-leveling every aspect of your life. From developing good habits and organizing your space to refining your mindset and personal goals, we're going to explore it all. Our guests share personal stories about the systems they've developed or systems they've used and the tweaks they've made in their lives when refinement was needed, allowing them to truly shine. Listen to Refine and Shine to learn how you can implement continuous improvement techniques in your daily routine, develop and maintain healthy habits that lead to success and satisfaction, organize your life to reduce the stress and increase your productivity, foster a growth mindset that propels you to new heights. My mission is to inspire you to take bold action, make positive changes, and become the best version of yourself. Whether you're aiming to elevate your career, nurture meaningful relationships, or enhance your overall well-being, Refine and Shine is your guiding light. With over 25 years of experience in continuous improvement, I help businesses streamline their processes, establish efficient work areas, and implement standard work protocols. I have trained over 600 individuals and teams in process improvement, optimizing workflows, and enhancing overall operational efficiency. Tune in every week as we embark on an enlightening journey, exploring paths to refinement and illuminating the way to shine in every area of our lives. Subscribe now and join us on this journey to polish your life and let your best self shine through. Thank you for joining us on Refine and Shine. Welcome everyone to another episode of the Refine and Shine podcast. I'm super excited for my guest today. She is another person that I met at a recent event, which I always say, get yourself in the room as many times as you can because you never know who you'll meet. And not just put yourself in the room, but also go and have those conversations. When I first met my guest, I was just drawn to her look. She was wearing this purple shirt and she just looked really radiant. And so I was like, you just look like someone I know. And I don't even know if she did or not. I just, that was my opening line to have a conversation. So my guest today is Wendy Kleinfeldt. She is an elite power coach helping high net worth women entrepreneurs transform their leadership mindset and fitness so they can create a life of their own design. Wendy empowers women to thrive beyond burnout, reclaim their energy, confidence, and power, and feel sexy in both business and life. With a background as a leadership coach, consultant, and speaker in the corporate world, Wendy blends high-performance strategy with fitness and mindset mastery. Holding degrees and certifications in psychology, coaching, and physique transformation, she brings a holistic approach to success. Having lived in 4 countries across 3 continents, Wendy understands the power of adaptability, resilience, and self-mastery, powering women to build strong bodies and unstoppable businesses. I'm sorry. Thank you so much, Wendy, for being here today. Oh, wow. Just reading all of that. You have so many things. And so I just want to thank you, and I can't wait to get into our conversation.
Oh, thank you, Angelina. The pleasure is all mine. I love being able to, share platforms with other women, just to, especially, in this day and age where there's just so much out there that's available to us, but it's sometimes hard to know what could be helpful, could be constructive. So any chance I get in partnering with other women like you to help send positive messages, I'm all for it.
Yes, I love that. I love that. You have so many things. I was reading it and I'm like 4 countries and all the things that you have been through. So just tell me a little bit about your journey and how you became the woman you are today.
Oh my goodness. So to try to make my really long journey story short and palatable in this time that we have. So I think like a lot of women, I was brought up to believe that, I had to be quiet. I had to just remain either super smart or, girls could either be pretty or smart, but you cannot be both. So I really struggled trying to fully understand, well, why can't I be both? And also, I was an ugly duckling. So growing up, I also had very negative messages around my body and just who I was. And my family and I, we were immigrants to Eastern Europe when I was a very young age. So I was born in China, and then we moved to Hungary when I was very young. And at the time, the social climate was just not very welcoming of the Chinese community. So, we struggled as an immigrant family in dealing with that. And so that impacted me a lot as a young child. And looking back, I think all those experiences have really helped me develop a greater global mindset around understanding people from different cultures. I went to school my whole life with kids from all over the world. So it wasn't just that I was surrounded by other Chinese folks or other Hungarian folks. I really had the privilege at a very young age of being around kids from all over the world. And that's helped me, I think, as a person because it's developed a greater empathy. So when I hear stories from people and it may not sound like a story that I probably would embrace, I try to still practice empathy and think about where that could be coming from. So in some ways, I say that if you want to develop greater understanding of others, travel more if you can, because that really helps exposes you to different ways of living and thinking. And it shows you that just because it's different, it's not weird, it's just different. And again, I'm skipping timelines that, when I became a young adult, I spent some time in Thailand. And again, another really, really great season of my life where I got to really live and really immerse myself in a different culture. And then I moved to the US, which again, very different culture too from the ones that I grew up in. And I finished my schooling, started my corporate career. And along the ways, I think I experienced all the lows and highs that one could experience in the corporate environment. And then I had to really ask myself at some point, which was about 2 years ago, when I said, okay, do I really want to continue doing this? I have found some successes, but I knew deep down that it never was the space for me. I'm a very creative person. I'm also a person who likes to kind of break things and figure things out along the way. And as you know, the corporate place is not necessarily one that embraces that. And so I thought, well, let me try entrepreneurship. I grew up with watching my parents being entrepreneurs and seeing their ups and downs really affected me. And I thought, oh my gosh, it's not something I want. I don't know. I don't think that's the life I want. But then I had to really come to a point with myself and I said, if what I'm searching for, it does not exist in the corporate world, I have to then find it because life is short. When I became a mom, it became very clear to me that time was such a precious currency that I can't get back. So
Mhm.
there's this book, I forgot what it's called, but it might have been called 4,000 Weeks or something. I can't remember. I didn't actually read the book, but the essence of the book is that in the normal human lifespan, you have 4,000 weeks. That's it. It doesn't sound very much. And so I took that learning as if I have about 4,000 weeks and if I'm going to approach midlife, fairly soon, then let's assume that I have 2,000 weeks left. So how do I want to use that time? Do I want to use that time still going through the corporate space, not being 100% fulfilled and always feeling like I should have tried something, I should have done something, I should have taken the leap? Or do I really take life by, by the whole reins and then say, let me just try it out? And because what is the worst thing that could happen? The worst thing that could happen is it doesn't work out and then I have to go get a job, right? But of course, now that I'm here, I'm thinking that this was the right decision.
I love how you shared that. And it's like I'm a time management, coach, and I'm always about like time management. Like you have to take the risk sometimes because like you said, we don't get back time. We can never
No.
get our time back. We're passing, every minute is passing. But
Yeah.
what we can do is look at what are we spending our time on and are we living the life that we're meant to live? I mean, we're all created for a purpose. And if we are stuck in the rut and we are like the corporate highs
Mhm.
and lows and you're tied down and you're not experiencing like the joy. And yes, being an entrepreneur is super, super hard, but there's also so much joy in coaching and teaching and helping others.
Absolutely.
And you get to be your own boss.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think the freedom that comes with the freedom and the autonomy that comes with entrepreneurship is something that I think I would have really hard time letting go of if it ever came to a point where I do have to go back to knock on wood, I never have to. Um, At this point, I feel like it's entirely a choice. I decided as soon as I left that I was never going back. And what's interesting is that what I find about the freedom and autonomy is that most people think the freedom and autonomy that comes without having being your own boss means that you can do whatever you want whenever you want. And actually, I think it creates a greater sense of responsibility because now you don't have somebody telling you what to do and when to do. Now you have to provide that structure for yourself. Yes, I can go take a walk in the middle of the day. And yes, I can pop in a load of laundry in between my meetings. But that to me is just like those small perks. The bigger perk really is around how do you want to make decisions in your life? How do you want to take accountability and take full ownership? If you have 8 hours of work, like if you're considering an hour, a working day being 8 hours, if you have 8 hours in a day to work, how do you actually want to spend the time now that you are your own boss? You are dictating your goals. You have your vision, your mission, and you have something that you want to achieve. How are you going to go about doing that? And there's no one that's going to watch you do it. There's no one that's going to try to keep you accountable. There's no performance reviews. There's no bonuses, right? It's just you. You're accountable to you. You have to wake up every day and look in the mirror and say, am I proud of what I've done so far?
We'll be back after a quick break.
Feeling overwhelmed by endless to-do lists and constant distractions? You're not alone. Many professionals and entrepreneurs struggle with never-ending tasks that spill into personal time, difficulty prioritizing what's truly important, a lack of clear structure in their daily routines. Well, let me introduce you to your Unlock Your Time Potential program, an 8-week coaching program designed to help you reclaim your time and boost productivity. What you will gain is proven strategies to manage your day effectively, techniques to eliminate distractions and stay focused, tools to align your daily actions with your long-term goals. Ready to take control of your time? Join the waitlist today and be the first to know when enrollment opens. Don't miss the opportunity to transform your productivity and achieve your goals. Check out the link in the summary notes. I love that. I think that's so important. And that is true. Like you are your own, you're the one, right? You're the one.
Yeah.
And you have to make sure that you're setting yourself up so that you are holding yourself accountable and that you say what you're going to do and do what you're going to say and that you stick to your mission and your values and all the things that you have in your vision. And at the end of the day, if something doesn't get done, it's only you who you can hold accountable, you to blame. And but we can shift things around too. Like we can, do like the laundry or whatever we need to
Yeah.
do, which is a good perk, but it's also,
Yeah.
what I also love is that, you're not only coaching people, but you have this whole fitness thing. And is your coaching and the fitness tied? How do you tie those in together?
That's a great question. So a lot of people are wondering if those are just separate verticals or separate services I provide. And to me, they're both sides of the same coin. I don't think you can succeed as a leader without actually being a leader of yourself first. And that includes not just taking care of your own learning and what you're consuming mentally or your emotional intelligence, but it's also how you're taking care of your body. So I learned this quite a bit when I was back in the corporate space. And one of the reasons why I felt like it was never a space where I could have full freedom and creativity is because a lot of leaders are saying, well, I'm on the clock. Why don't you come in and help me solve this problem and then I'll move on. And as great as that is from a perspective of like, hey, they're go-getters, that's not how development works. That's not how growth works, right? It's, we're both moms. So a great example is, you can't just feed your child and then say, okay, now you're going to grow to be a good human. You have to nurture them. It takes time. And it's just like with yourself and your own leadership. If you truly want to be a good leader, whichever space you're in, if you want to run a better business, if you want to run a really good team, you have to start with you. Because if you're not right, wherever, if you're not right here, if you're not right in your heart, and if you are not physically healthy, you are going to be limited in how well you can output. So a lot of people have this mistaken idea that they should just push through and they should keep, outputting. They should keep investing energetically into their business, into whatever it is they're doing. And yes, you may be able to get away with it for a while. However, you will hit up against a wall. And this is where a lot of burnout happens. And so for me, the fitness is a non-negotiable from the leadership and the mindset piece. and vice versa. I don't want to just make you a strong person or somebody who's really lean or give you the best body if you don't have the mindset, if you don't already own your health and fitness from the perspective of, oh, I'm leading myself. Because the last thing I want is for you to come to me and then you are yo-yoing later on in life because you felt like it worked out well when you were working with me, but then you left and then you never developed a lifestyle for it.
I think that's so important. And that just like, that resonates so much is like being responsible for like, we are in control of what we consume when it
Yes.
comes to what we listen to, who we surround
Yep.
ourselves with, and what we put in our mouths. And,
Yes.
if what we're working out or, are not working out, like if that's the case, and as a whole, we have to take care of every piece of it, right? For ourselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's a lot of work and it can be overwhelming, and I think that's why a lot of people they either start a habit and then they break off, or they just stop doing something because it's hard to instill a new habit. It's hard to create a lifestyle or to transform a lifestyle, because if you think about like our habits, the way we live our life, it's almost like we're going in the ruts of the road because that's the road most traveled. Those are the path most traveled. And for us to get out of it, it feels a little bumpy, but you need to feel the bumps to know that you are making a shift, right?
Mhm.
And just because it's hard doesn't mean it's impossible. I think a lot of times it takes a lot of will to not just have that desire to make the change, but you also need to execute. Like just because you want it is not enough. You have to want it enough to actually be able to go and take action.
Yeah, I think that's so important. Wow, yeah, it's amazing because I was just thinking in my head, like just thinking like earlier, my husband, he was working out and he was just, I'm like, oh, I'm like really proud of you. And he's like, I, he's trying to change his habits and he's like, my mind's not like mental health. And he's like, I don't want to go outside. I just want to like, this is what I want to do. And it's just like, you have to have that mindset that you can choose the two different things. You can choose to do this or you can choose to work out. And
Yeah.
and that's what that's what he chooses. And that's how he stopped drinking 11 years ago is every time he wanted to drink, he would just work out. He would do push-ups every time he wanted to drink. He would just do alcohol. He would
Mm,
just do like 100 push-ups or this or that and just to change his whole mindset of how he felt about that
mm,
habit. And so I think that that's awesome. And it just like makes me think of just like the conversation I was just having earlier, with him,
yeah.
that we're in charge of like what we do and it's going to be hard. It's not going to be
Yeah.
easy, but the road traveled isn't easy, right? God gives us trials and tribulations, and that is for us to just make ourselves better and remember that we can go, like, you're never going to go from 0 to 100, right? You have to take the
Yeah.
steps to get there.
Exactly. And I think what you're speaking to really is what the real definition of discipline is, right? I think we're in an age where there's a lot of like hustle porn, there's a lot of bro podcasts out there with some of them are very famous even who say, basically you just gotta work, 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 and you just gotta have the discipline to do it and go at it nonstop. And I don't think that necessarily is the way to go. I mean, like I see this like pendulum or the spectrum of like you have this on one end, you have this complete victimhood of like, oh my gosh, just take it easy. The world is falling apart. So just, if you don't want to make any effort, just don't make any effort. And then on the other hand, you have these bro podcasts of, men saying, you got to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and roll off the bed and into an ice bucket. Otherwise, you're not really disciplined. But if for a lot of us women who are moms, or maybe moms of older kids, or moms with just really young kids, or even women who aren't necessarily moms, but they're at the peak of their career. You have to know that you gotta be able to maximize your energy in a way that you don't deplete. You can't just give, give, give and expect that your battery's not going to run out. And discipline isn't that you keep going even when you're going to burn out. Discipline just means that you are willing to consistently do something even when you don't feel like it. And I really am all about breaking down these concepts into something tangible, because I think these words get thrown around like transformation, mindset, discipline. And really, to me, we got to break these down so that they don't feel so scary, because I do see that there are people who shy away from different changes they need to make because they think, oh my gosh, that takes so much discipline and I don't have that. And I don't think that's true. I think, like anything, discipline can be practiced.
Yeah, I think that's so true. And so when you go through your coaching programs, how do you coach your people? Do you do like one-on-one coaching or do you do group coaching? So
Yeah.
walk me through that.
So my preference is one-on-one. And I say this because I know my superpower comes in the one-on-one. So I go very deep with my clients. And what that means is we will do an inventory of everything. So I'll start out by asking about your childhood, how you dealt with conflict, what you are some of the ideals that you were brought up with. And if you're thinking, if you're hearing this and you think, oh my gosh, is this therapy? No, it's not therapy. I'm not a therapist. However, I go deep into these areas because time and time again, you'll see even high-level executives and successful business people who are holding on to beliefs and habits that were developed when they were children. It's something that's inescapable. It doesn't matter um, how grandeur of a lifestyle you have now and how far you've made it. There's things in our childhood that have still stuck with us. I mean, the first 7 years of our life are so pivotal that those habits and beliefs and those ruts in our brain and our consciousness or subconscious, they carry through. If you ask people, a lot of people around you right now, like how they deal with conflict today and how they dealt it as they were kids, you will see that there is a connection.
Mhm.
And so that's what I mean when I say I go really deep. So I talk about your childhood. I talk about all the things that you've experienced, your profound moments. And then we examine, where do you want to go in the future? What is your legacy? And to me, this is not an answer that people can quickly skip over. Some people might say, oh, I don't know. I don't think I have a need to be known for something. And I'll push people, because again, it's this whole idea that because we cannot see death in our mind, we don't hold a lot of value in terms of what our life month is supposed to be. But I make it very visceral, like, okay, let's say you only have 1,000 weeks left in your life. And at the very end, what do you want to be known for? And then let's look at today. What are you currently doing? What are your habits? What are some of the behaviors that you're holding on to? What are the beliefs you have about yourself? How do you talk to yourself? So we go through the whole inventory of you as a person, and then we start looking for patterns. Where are the patterns? Where are the gaps of where you are today and where you want to go? What are some of the things from the past that you're carrying today that you need to let go of? What are some of the limiting beliefs or excuses that you need to break down? And you need to shed those so that you can move forward in a way that serves you. And the way that I approach my coaching with my clients is not that I tell them what to do. So as a coach, I never tell them what to do.
Mhm.
The only exception is if we do like a fitness or wellness plan, there may be guidances I provide to say, hey, if you want to reach a certain goal, this is kind of what you need to do. There's not a shortcut around it. However, in terms of your mindset or your lifestyle, I'm not the choice police. I'm not the
Mhm.
decision police. What I do teach you is this idea of radical accountability. I think we just talked about that, right? It's
Mhm.
no matter what's happening, you have to have the accountability. You have to have the ownership of it all. And that's really hard for people until they've worked through some of those patterns, some of those ruts, and being able to get out of their own way.
I love that. I love that. And that's so important because you're right. You see people who have burnout later in life or have just
Yeah.
a breakdown, and it's because of the conflicts or the ways that they deal with stuff because of what happens in the first, like the way that they've been dealing with um unlimiting beliefs that they've had, or
Yeah.
maybe something they've been told all their lives, or they have the way they spend their money because of how they didn't have
Yeah.
much when they were like, all of this ties it in. And so it's like, it's when I've been hearing this a lot in this last like maybe 5 or 6 years, and I'm like, if I could raise my child all over again, like I would probably do it a little different and like kind of do what you've done, is where I wasn't working all the time and that I was actually there for them.
Mm.
because you just want to make sure, like, and they're adults now, so I can't change that, but it's
Right.
so important to make sure that people know that, who are having young children, just to be there for your children and make sure that how you talk to your children. Especially nowadays, I see so many parents using technology for their kids, where
Mm-hmm.
their kids are just like the iPad's the babysitter. And I'm like, you need to like take that away and read to your children, because
Yeah.
they're gonna be have that addiction to social media, not social, just the dopamine that comes from looking at the blue screen. And it's like,
So,
you can't have that, because it's going to affect them later on in life, or they're not going to be able to have
yeah.
conversations with humans, you
Oh
know?
my gosh. Yeah, that's a whole other can of
Yeah.
worms. I don't know if you're familiar with this one psychologist named Jonathan Haidt. So he's written a couple books on this, and he has successfully implemented a no cell phone policy in the New York public schools. So that's one of his, he has 4 different steps on how he thinks we can kind of redirect the young generation today to a healthier outcomes. And one of them is no cell phones in school. So you're right. Yeah, that while the technology is convenient, and this is the conundrum I think that a lot of entrepreneurs face, especially if you're parents, right? I had this conversation with a friend of mine where we basically deduced that, the way we parent is all about how we were hurt as kids. If you didn't have a lot of toys when you were a kid, as a parent, you probably want to shower your kids with toys, right? Whether or not it's constructive, we have to kind of self-examine and say, are we parenting in a way that where we're trying to heal our own inner child, or are we really trying to do it in a way that feels constructive? And it's hard. It's hard because I think, especially as moms, I think you know this too, is that there's a sense of that mom guilt, and you're going to have that regardless of what you do. You could be the perfect mom in the world and you still have mom guilt, I think. And I think it was a while ago that I've just fully embraced that I'm always going to feel some sort of guilt at some point, and I'm always going to feel like I'm not doing enough, but I just embrace that that's just a feeling. It's not really indicative of how I'm doing. And oftentimes I just look at my daughter. I look at her face. I look at how she's behaving. I look at how healthy she is, how big she's growing. And I think, you know what? I'm really grateful for her. Yeah,
Hmm.
and this is not, and sometimes you do have to give yourself that pat on the back and say, you know what, you are building so much in this life. Like, as women, we build and we give and we nurture, that there comes a point where we have to acknowledge what we're doing because it's just so hard, right? And if we don't stop and give ourselves that moment, then you get into that emotional burnout.
Yeah, I can understand what you're saying. And, like, and I was saying, like, sometimes I'm like, okay, did I do the best that I could as a mother? And then I'm like, I'm already done. Like, I can't change
Yeah,
it. All I can do is make sure that I am there for my children, still, like I've always been, and that I, give them the best, and that I also make sure that I show them an example of a healthy adult.
yeah,
Because even though they're now adults, they're still seeing me as an adult. Am I taking care of my life the way that they want, when they're in my age, that they're going to be able to say, okay, mom did this, and or my
yeah.
parents did this, and do we have a healthy relationship, or me and my
Hmm.
husband and I, and all of those things that they're going to see. And that, I
Yeah.
think, is so important as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we're their role models, whether they want us to be or not, because they will adopt our behaviors.
And I love how you said, like, I am guilty of one of those people who, like, I grew up in a very poor environment. And I was born in the projects, born at home. It was a very we were not rich at all, by all means, not at all, or wealthy or mid class at all, until very later in life. And I was the person that showered my kids with toys, and all of those types of things. I know that I was one of those people that I would just do that. And then I was like, their rooms would be a mess, and I'm like, I can't get mad at them because I'm the one that bought them all these things.
Yeah.
And so we had to, like, cut it down. And and even this year for Christmas, we did something a little different. We're like, hey, we're just
Mm.
going to draw names, and we're not going to be buying a bunch of stuff just because it's Christmas. We're going to buy you what you like. We had a list, and it was so much better, because I was like, wait, we got to change that mindset, that just because it's Christmas that we have to spend a certain amount, or we have to buy a bunch of stuff just because it's gift giving. It's not the season for that. Like, that's not the meaning of the season. So I think
Yeah,
that's important.
I love that. Frankly, Christmas is, one of my favorite holidays. not necessarily because of the gift. I mean, the gift is a component, right? But more so in the sense of like you're giving and receiving. And there's just something beautiful when you and your loved ones can do that for each other. But you're right, it's more than just about the gifts. There's several different meanings that you can attribute to Christmas. And for me, a big part is that you are spending quality time with family, first and foremost. It's about a celebration of, to me, in my younger years, I did, attribute different Christian faith principles to it. And later on in life, for me, it was just a broader way for me to really embrace the people I love in my community. And actually, a few years ago, I had decided that instead of doing gifts, or doing something big, I'm going to do volunteer, so I went into like a soup kitchen sort of thing and volunteered in handing out food. And when you talked about, doing the name drawing, I'm thinking, when my daughter gets older, she's only 4 now, so Christmas is still fun. And, it's kind of fun when they're that age. But as she gets older, maybe when she's a teenager, when toys and things, just become a commodity. I mean, they get so much anyway, as it is, that perhaps there is a different way for us to show them the meaning of different holidays and different, I guess, markers of the year of, that it's not always about us. It's also a chance for us to give as well.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I can see that with like my daughter is very big on be like for her birthday, she just had a birthday and she's like, well, she's one of those people that makes sure that she leans out her stuff, like she gets rid of the clutter and all those things. And so she hangs her clothes up a certain way. And then as the year goes, if the hanger doesn't change directions after she's worn, she'll change the direction of the hanger after she wears it. But if she doesn't, she just donates that stuff to like a battered women's shelter
Yeah.
or like foster homes and things like that for the kids that
Mhm.
and so and that's just another way of just like exposing her to different like environments and volunteer work and things like that where she's had that mindset now at an age she's 22 and has that mindset. So I think that's important, like it's examples of what we can do as parents to show our kids, our grandkids or whatever about the volunteer work and the helping others and just all the different types of faith as well. I think that's
Yeah,
important as well because they're watching
absolutely.
us and we're exposing them to so much and their brains can consume so much. And so we have to continue to do that and not keep them sheltered, but not so sheltered that they're not exposed to different environments and stuff. Like we shelter
Yes.
them away from the bad stuff, like the TV and all those types of things.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a hard line. That's a hard line, right? It's like, how do you protect them, but also develop grit, right? And gratitude. So
Yeah, I love that. And so, when you do your coaching, like you were talking about the different things and you go really deep and then you help them with all
mm,
those things, how long does your programs last? Is it like a year program, a couple of months, or how long does it take to work with your
yeah,
clients?
for me, the minimum is 6 months, only because if you want to see a real change, uh, let's not kid ourselves. It's not going to happen in a month. It's not even going to happen in 3 months. It might happen within that 3 month period, but what I find is that people can do a lot of changes actually in 3 months. But the thing is, do they stick? Right. So you see a lot of programs out there like 12-week programs and 8-week programs. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying that those things can't be impactful. To me, it's about stickiness. Once you leave our partnership, are you just going to go back to doing what you're doing? Because for me, the real win isn't that I saw you change within the few months we were together. For me, the win is that not only have you made the changes, but you've incorporated them into your life. So that if we're not partnering, like when we're not partnering together anymore, and my thing is always, I hope you never have to come back to me for the same reason. Right. So during the time we're together in that 6 months, 6 months, I think is a fair amount of time for you to make at least one really big change and for that to stick. So, of course, there's longer options if people desire, but 6 months can be challenging for some folks because it seems scary. But then again, I'm not in this space for comfort. I'm in the space to challenge people and get them out of their comfort zone.
I love that. I love that. And then with your fitness as well, do you are a very fit person. So tell me, has you always been a fit person or tell me how that journey came about?
Yeah. So I think for me, gosh, I mean, this could be a whole TED Talk, and I'm sure, as other women who are listening, and this is one reason why I'm primarily focused on women, because I understand the female experience. I feel like just about every woman I've ever met has experienced body dysmorphia, meaning you just don't feel good in your skin. And so from a very young age, again, I felt self-conscious about, am I not skinny enough? Am I not pretty enough? So, uh, and that kind of lack of confidence in my body does translate to lack of confidence internally. Just imagine if you walked into a room and you didn't feel comfortable about yourself, and then you're being asked to be super confident in whatever it is that you're going to do in that room. It doesn't really mesh well together, right? It's like, a silly example would be, if you've ever worn pants where it's like pinching you on the side and you're just never comfortable and you don't enjoy sitting because it pinches you, you're just going to bodily feel that discomfort, and it's going to come out of you in different ways. There's that saying that if you look good, you feel good, and then you play good. And really what that means is, if you're confident in your body, and and by the way, for me, looking good or feeling good can be in whatever form that means to you. So I don't subscribe to that you have to be lean or you have to be of a particular size. It's about, am I happy in my
Mhm.
skin? And I didn't really get to that point until after I had my daughter. I've gone through waves of, working out. I mean, technically I've worked out since I was in high school. Since actually, even as soon as I reached puberty, I was like doing working out, but I wasn't at the gym until high school. And so I've been working out my whole life. But I was brought up in the era of, the whole Kate Moss, skinny, nothing tastes as good as skinny feels, right? The whole toxic mentality of, you got to be super skinny. And so throughout my life, I think I just did workouts wrong. I wanted to do a ton of cardio because I wanted to be as skinny as possible. And I came to the realization as an adult that, how can you try to mentally and as a person, as a professional, be as big, as mature, as powerful as you want to be, while while you're actively trying to shrink your body? It's like,
Mhm.
let me output the most that I can, but let me make sure that this vessel, this container, is as small as possible. To me, that doesn't math.
Mhm.
It doesn't work. And also, it's not very good for your body to try to shrink it that way. And so for me, when I truly felt the transformative power of fitness was after I had my daughter. I experienced burnout. I experienced, going through this period of like just not liking what I saw in the mirror. And that translated to how I felt about myself, which then, that negative self-talk turns into negative self-talk into other areas, right? Because rarely do I find that if you uh, feel good about that you can feel good about everything except for this one area of your life. You have all that positive self-talk, but when it comes to this one area, you just have negative self-talk that you can compartmentalize. And so it all just kind of bleeds into each other. And then when I finally got to a stage where I'm like, I'm tired of feeling this way. I'm tired of being tired. I'm tired of not liking what I see. I want to take control and really do it once and for all. That's when I really got into bodybuilding. And then I remember the first time I lifted something really heavy that I think I was able to do, and I did it. And I thought, whoa, what else am I holding myself back on that I didn't think I could do, but I can actually do it? So this physical strength, this physical confidence, all of a sudden it was this light bulb moment in my head. I'm like, I probably can do so much more than I thought. And so the more that I got into bodybuilding, the more I got into fitness, I realized there was a lot of principles that carried over from leadership. So to me, leadership, the way that I was coaching was all conceptual. But when I got into fitness, it was like visceral. It was in the moment. You want to talk about discipline in leadership? Well, discipline at the gym is very visceral and it's very, very visible, right?
I like that.
So you want to talk about leading yourself and having emotional intelligence in as a leader. Well, guess what? At the gym, you will be humble and you have to be very self-aware of when you're doing something that may be out of ego and you could be hurting yourself, or you're just recognizing that maybe what you're doing is not contributing to a good performance at the gym. So there's a lot of accountability too, that I think is a very visceral experience. And if I could bring that to women, they'll see the crossover to how they've been leading themselves in business and in their life.
I love that. Do you actually compete too for the bodybuilding?
You know, I've never competed, but I'm going to be competing my first competition later this year. The date is still not set, but my coach and I are working towards it.
Awesome. Awesome. I love that. I think that you have such a wealth of information that you've provided to my listeners, and there's just so many great things. And I love how your program goes, like it's a 6-month program. It goes you go deep from the beginning, like when they're young, and all the way to like getting one thing to change. And I just love all the things that you shared about today. And as we wrap up though, I'll make sure that I have your links in the show notes, and so that people can contact you and follow you. But I would love to see or hear, what is one word, phrase, quote, action, something that my listeners can take action on today in order to refine and shine?
So I think radical accountability is going to become a tagline of mine. And one way to very quickly take accountability for your actions is next time you feel like saying, I can't, I want you to change that to I will or I won't.
I love that.
Ask yourself, is it I can't or am I not willing to try? Is it I can't or I'm choosing not to? Is it I can't or is it I am prioritizing this over this? So next time you're thinking and you're about to say, before you say that I can't, ask yourself, what's behind the can't? Because can't means you don't have capability, and I don't believe that. Is it about choice? Is it about prioritization? Is it about your will to try?
I love that. I love that. That's so good. I actually had a friend who raised her kids, and they couldn't use the word can't in their house. And so they didn't call cantaloupes, they called them mantaloupes, because they couldn't say the word can't. So I love that.
That's
Thank
funny.
you.
That's cute.
Well, I thank you so much for being an amazing guest. And I just thank you. And listeners, please follow her. She's an amazing person. Follow her Instagram. She has amazing reels, and she's just a truly empowered woman who wants to help others. So
Thank you so much, Angelina. This was such a pleasure.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Refine and Shine. We hope you find valuable insights and inspiration to fuel your journey of continuous improvement. Remember, the key to success lies in refining your processes and letting your inner brilliance shine. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. Your feedback is greatly appreciated and helps us reach more listeners like you who are eager to refine and shine in all areas of life. Stay connected with us on social media for updates and additional resources and behind-the-scenes content. We love hearing from our listeners, so feel free to reach out with any suggestions, questions, or success stories you'd like to share. As we wrap up, remember that the power to transform your life lies within you. Keep striving for growth, embracing change, and seeking opportunities to refine your skills. Together, let's continue to shine bright and make a positive impact in the world. Until next time, keep refining and keep shining.